Hey, I'm really excited about our next guest. It's somebody I've known for about 25 years. Shelly Grimm is a financial services professional out in West Texas. She used to be in New Orleans, and now she's out in West Texas. So welcome to the show today, Shelly.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for having me.
Now, how did you get involved in the financial services industry?
Well, I think I probably was drawn to it most importantly because my mother was the first woman diagnosed in the United States with Crohn's disease. There were 4 other men who had been diagnosed prior to her, but I was kind of the poster child, if you will, for who should have had all those products that we sell in place growing up, and we didn't. So I became entranced when I finally got introduced to financial services and realized that I probably would be a very good proponent for it.
You know, this show is about helping young people build wealth, and so how important is it for young people to really start saving and investing?
Well, I think all of the things that we do need to be introduced, and I'll say as early as possible. I personally help with junior achievement and doing some things at the elementary school level. I also teach a course to high schoolers that the USDA underwrites, and that's a 9th and 10th grade course. I don't feel like there's enough education at an earlier level. But I think as soon as someone can get that kind of education, they need to, because there's a relationship that they're going to form with money. They're either going to learn it from their parents, or they're going to form their own relationship with money. And if they don't form the right relationship with money, it doesn't really matter what we do. You know, we can incentivize them, we can talk to them about it, but their behavior is not going to change. And so there's some theories out there on liminal thinking, which is behavior modification. And so if you come at it from that standpoint and educate early, then you can help instill some of those good habits. You still kind of need to help carry it over to the home, which I've had the pleasure of doing in many instances when I've taught those classes.
So what are some of the principles, basic principles of saving and investing that you would recommend to young people?
Kind of depends on where they are. One of the first questions that I do ask them when they come in, whether it's them by themselves, I especially ask it with couples. I've learned over the 25 years I've been doing this that, you know, obviously the number one reason people get divorced is money, right? Number one argument. And then when I've had couples come in, they may have been married, some have been married for 5 years, some have been married for 50. But 9 times out of 10, they don't agree with how money works. And if they do, it's just kind of one of them acquiesced, you know, to the way money works. The dominant one in the family, that is the earner. And so my basic principles are find out what their philosophy is on money. How, you know, some think it's never gonna run out, and some think they'll never have enough. And it's something in the middle.
So I think, you know, in the book I talk about that there's spenders and there's savers. Like, I'm a saver. I've always been a saver. My wife's been a spender. And I actually think it's kind of good if you have a spender and a saver, because then you're more balanced. If you have 2 savers, you're going to wind up with a lot of money, but you're going to live a very boring life. Yes. If you have 2 spenders, you're probably going to be talking about the divorce situation, because, oh, they'll have a blast for a while and then they wind up with nothing. And so when you have a spender and a saver, they can kind of be a little more balanced. Now, you've seen a lot of young people. What are some of the common mistakes that young people make when it comes to saving and investing?
The biggest mistake that I see is, and you reference it in your book, lifestyle creep, and keeping up with the Joneses. The biggest mistake that I see right now is no one, and I think a lot of this has to do with the people that are my age with their kids now in the 30s. I wasn't fortunate enough to have this situation, but my generation did a lot of, hey, I want you to have everything I didn't have, okay? So they bought too big of houses. They did never buy a starter home. Their kids never saw them struggle. They overextended themselves. You know, credit came along at the time when, you know, I was in college and starting to work. Came into fruition to really use it, if you will, because those interest rates started to drop. You know, when my first house I bought was 8.5% interest, but some people, you know, it got down to 5 pretty quickly, you know, in the 80s, and then people started, you know, just extending credit a lot. So for me, the biggest mistake that I see them make right now is they're not trying to figure out how to buy a house. They're trying to figure out how to buy the house that they think they want to live in for 30 years. I've tried to explain that they're never probably going to live in that house for 30 years. That's probably their first home. It's not going to be their only home. And so for them to approach it like it is a first home and that they can ease into that dream home. They don't want that. They want, right now, everything they want. They want the Range Rover. They want the $3 million home. They want the company that they aspire to have to be earning, you know, that company needs to make $5 million today. And that's not really, that's not the American dream.
Right.
You know?
Now, I see the same thing with some of our kids. You know, we have a nice house, and they go, "Oh, I want a house like this." And well, you know, we started out with a very small house,
yeah,
okay, and
1,100 square feet, probably.
Then it moved up over time, and you know, I talk about that in the book a lot about, you know, you've got to delay the gratification. You
Yes.
can't have everything brand new right now, or you will never have anything in the future. And the problem is these people are driving their $1 million retirements around in their cars because they're spending way too much on their cars, and they're getting divorced. So. How can a young person determine their financial goals and start setting a financial plan?
I advocate for using a financial professional to do that. But in the event that, you know, there's a combination thereof that you can find, certainly there's plenty of people on TV and things that can give them good advice. But when you're working with a financial professional, we can help them figure out what those are. One of the things that I find so much is you ask somebody young, you know, what's your goal? I want to retire with, well, first of all, they don't even know what retirement is. I'm going to tell you that right now. None of them think they're ever going to retire. I think part of that comes from their parents. Their parents, they see them going into these retirements with 30-year mortgages. And they know their mom and dad are never going to be able to quit working. They'll have to do an optional working retirement. So I have to sit them down and say, okay, what are your goals? And they give me these lofty goals. And then we bring it down to reality. And so that's the first thing. I have to do a reality check with them as to what their goals are. And then we set short-term, medium, and long-term. And then I show them how we work backwards, you know, with that.
And I think it's so important to level set at the beginning and get it realistic, because if it's not realistic, it's not going to work. No. So what are some of the strategies for budgeting and managing expenses that you would recommend young people take advantage of?
Kind of depends on the person. You know, not everybody's computer literate. I personally use a program that you can aggregate all of your, you know, your accounts into one place, and it shows you your net worth every day, and I can even run reports to gather what I think might be appropriate for you. But with some people, debit cards are killing us, right? Nobody has a checking account anymore that they write a check out of. I have found that to be extremely detrimental to savings and investing for young people. They have that right when they get out of high school or into college. Sometimes they don't even have their own, it's just mom or dad's. So I think the most helpful thing is to figure out how they handle money and what's holding them back from saving. Most of the time it's that debit card. And so sometimes depends on their style, but I'll be drastic enough to say, okay, we're going to use the cash method, we're going to use jars, we're going to, you know, this is what we're going to do, here's your budget. You know, you got $500 this month for food. 500 cash is going into this jar. You know, it's gone, it's gone. And so we're putting the savings first away, and then we do cash, for instance, in the jars. Sometimes I use envelopes, sometimes a file system for them. You know, it just depends on what, and they have to put the receipts in there. And then when that's all over at the end of a month, you know, they come in and I gather up all the receipts and we put it into where it needs to go, and then they start doing that for themselves. And sooner or later they see the light at the end of the tunnel and they realize where their detriment is. You
know, one of the things I've been trying to do is show people how fun retirement can be. You know, I'm not a big TikTok guy, but for this book I did a TikTok channel. I did not allow my contacts or anything, but I'm just posting little videos showing them how awesome retirement can be. And yeah, if they knew how awesome retirement can be, it wouldn't be like, oh, I got to save this money for retirement.
Right.
I mean, we're taking cruises all over the world. I'm a member of two country clubs. I'm playing golf 4 to 5 days a week. I'm trying to show people, you know, it can be an awesome experience. It doesn't have to be this bad, nasty thing that you're going to die right away. Like, retirement should be super fun. And I'm trying to show that, and not just talk the talk, but walk the walk, and then give them something to look forward to. So, you know, a lot of young people say, oh, Tom and Shelly, you guys are old fogies, or thank you, boomer. They'll say boomer or something, and it's YOLO. You only live once. And Joe Jordan and I say, it's not YOLO, it's yo-yo. Yeah. You're on your own.
Yeah.
And so how can you help young people balance, you know, saving, but also enjoying life along the way? It is a balance.
It is. Funny you bring up Joe Jordan. He is the one who introduced that balance to me. And oddly enough, he put on a little chef's apron and he got out all the fruits and the vegetables and put them in a bowl and showed us how we mix it up, right? And so I've lived by that philosophy my entire career. There's not one solution. It's a bunch of solutions. You have to have proper protection, right? You can't leave yourself hanging out there where you're going to have to come up with $10,000 because you didn't have health insurance. You can't leave yourself out there and you need $30,000 because your car got demolished or you hit someone else, you know. So it's a combination of having the right protection and then also having the right investment strategies and having enough savings to weather those storms. So it really is a balancing act. And it's really hard to do that yourself if you're not working with someone who understands and has enough experience. I think that's why, okay, boomer, makes sense, right? Because you can be 30 years old in this business and have gotten all the training, have all the right certifications, but you haven't been through those trials. My gosh, we've been through all those trials. And so we can reference back to that and say, this is the time I was stupid and I didn't buy that X, and I got whacked with the extra $1,000 I had to pay for that.
And we've had friends die, and we've had our parents die, and we've had our parents have long-term care experiences, and that's things that younger people really haven't experienced, but we've lost money in investments, and many of them haven't. And once you lose money a few times, I'm at the point where I said, I don't want to lose money anymore. I want to make as much as I can make, but I don't want to lose what I've already got. Now, you and I are both really heavy into financial education. I mean, that's really why I wrote the book, and I've been training people on retirement for years. But how important is financial education to helping these young people do the right things with money?
So and within, you know, my first meeting with anybody is to level set who I am, what I do, and to make sure that we're going to be on the same page. If we're not, then I really don't ever see a basis for us working together, because we'll be butting heads over what I need them to understand and what they need to understand to help themselves. I can't make them do it, right? But as far as financial education, you know, I have things that get pumped out of my website, you know, to my clients, and some of those will be interesting to them, some of them won't. And then I hold workshops. Especially for the young folks, I hold workshops so that an hour and a half every 2 weeks, you know, it's little quips. You can't get these, and I don't do it virtually. That's the other thing that's really hard with the young folks. They want everything online. Well, they don't pay attention online. So, you know, come to the workshop, and then when it's all over with, I've helped them build out the aggregator, you know, that I use. But the education part, they've got to learn at least the basics. And I do ask them in the very beginning, how educated do you want to be? If it's just a little, then I will give you just the facts, ma'am, and we'll just have that level. But if you want a lot, boy, do I have a lot for you. So.
Now, you know, we've just passed $34 trillion in debt, and on the way to 35, 36, on the way to 50 trillion. We are now paying more interest on our debt than the defense budget for Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, Space Force. It's incredible. You know, that's things the boomers did. The boomers spent that money, and now the kids are going to have to pay it off. So we know that taxes have to go up. It's not a political decision, not Republican, Democrat. It's a math problem. What kind of tax advice are you given to younger people? Because they can take advantage of some things right now that when taxes go up, they don't have to be the ones paying those.
That's right. And we didn't, not only did we not have the advantage, we didn't even know about them, right? If there were advantages, nobody came to us and said, hey, look what you can do, you know, before Tamara. But for instance, I had a conversation with somebody last week, a friend of mine, and you know, I said, how much are you putting into your 401k? And he said, oh, I'm putting 17%, 16%, you know, max he could do. And I said, what are they matching? You know, he told me what it had to be. And I said, okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to stop doing that, and we're going to take that money, we're going to put it to a Roth IRA. You've got to have some things that are going into non-qualified or non-taxable distribution vehicles. And if I can get them early enough, I like to expose them at least to the concept of life insurance that also has the feature that helps them build the cash value in the life insurance so that we can maximum fund it and then allow it to grow tax deferred and then allow it to distribute, if we do that properly, allow that to distribute tax free.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I've personally done too.
Yeah, me too.
And you know, people look at me and think I'm crazy. My annual life insurance premium is $226,000. Well, people would think that's crazy if they think that's a cost, but it's not. It's an asset on my balance sheet. And all of that money, every penny of that is in there, plus more, because it's grown.
Sure.
And I tell people, look, if you want to get a lot of tax-free money out in the future, you need to put some money in.
Yes.
And I'm going to be able to just flip that switch whenever I want and get tax-free income coming to me, and it's protected from creditors. People can't sue it. People don't realize that the money that's in life insurance, and in the state of Arizona where I live, annuities as well, all of that is protected from creditors. You can't ever sue that from you. And so I think protection is very important too. It's not just growth. I want to make as much as I can make, but I don't want to lose what I've already got, and that's what our products can help us do.
Well, and then the upside to that is, you know, some people are like, I don't want to put all that in life insurance. And it's like, well, okay, well, if I put it, just let me put that in an investment for you. Well, if it's down in value when you die, what does your family get? Oh, just the value. Well, if you die and you put it in a life insurance policy, what does your family get? Oh, step up in basis, right? You've raised the death benefit, tax-free, passing to them tax-free, and we always forget that as financial professionals. Now, most people don't know that death benefits on life insurance are tax-free. About 60% of the people out there don't know that.
Yeah, that's a huge advantage. So we both agree that emergency funds are very important because, like, when the car breaks down, you don't want to have to take money out of your 401k or stop your life insurance premium. You need to have an emergency fund. You know, people used to say 3 to 6 months. I think after COVID, I say 12 to 24 months is a minimum that you want to have because stuff happens. But how important do you think having an emergency fund is?
I don't help anyone invest or put any other money aside until we've got a minimum of 6 months. Once I have a minimum of 6 months, then I'll let them parlay it, you know, so we can do some savings, we can do some investing, but we can't even begin that process until I've got at least 6 months set aside. And then we'll do some of each, you know, we'll start to put some in each. But I saw too many people during the pandemic, just like you did, and I've seen it really always, you know, that there's been, you know, too many emergencies that have come up and they don't have the cash to do it, and they didn't make arrangements, you know, for that to be a consideration whenever they bought the car or they, you know, bought the house, you know, that they might need something to fix it.
Now, Shelly, I know you also help retirees retire and get the most, have an optimal retirement. Talk to me a little bit about some of the strategies you use with people in their 50s and 60s, for example.
Okay. Probably in their pre-retirement years, depending on their distribution, if they've had a pension wherever they are, or, you know, if they've done really well with putting away money on their own, whether it be through their 401k or themselves, and they weren't my client to begin with, I usually put the money while it's accumulating anyway into you know, an annuity where it's protected if that's something that's really important. And with my high net worth and my medical doctor clients, you know, attorneys, those types, they all need that creditor protection. My regular old folks, they really like that paychecks to playchecks situation. So I really do believe in doing the income annuity and then partnering it with a life insurance policy so that people can spend what they've earned. And I find so many people, they're trying to do everything they can to save it, to pass it on. And I'm saying, why? Why don't you spend this? This is the worst asset you can pass. Let's take the life insurance. Let's build out enough where I can buy that policy. You're not even going to miss that money. and you can buy a policy for whatever it is you want to leave. What's that legacy? Is it $1 million? Is it $2 million? Who do you want it to go to? Normally it's the grandkids, you know. And then you've built your legacy, now go have fun. And I can't tell you how many people have said, I never even thought of that. Because one, normally they don't believe in life insurance, but suddenly they go, oh, I didn't know that's what it was for. You know?
Well, you know why grandparents and grandchildren get along is because they have a common enemy.
Yeah. That's right.
So, no, you know, we've done that with our kids. So, you know, we were saying how much we leave the kids, and my wife said, I don't know, what do you think? I said, well, let's buy a $1 million second to die life insurance policy, name the 4 kids a beneficiary. And we did that. Total cost of that $1 million policy was $150,000. So for 15 cents on the dollar, we get to leave them $1 million tax free. We get to spend the other $850,000.
That's right.
And so if people understood that by combining, and by the way, Ernst & Young verifies everything that you're saying. They just came out with a white paper, and they looked at what is the optimal retirement plan. And it said 30% cash value life insurance, 30% income annuity, 40% investments. And I'll tell you, my own personal situation is very close to those numbers. And so, you know, and I think you agree with that because we've been in this business for 30 years. We've seen when people have protection product, we've seen when they haven't. Yeah. And there's just some disasters over there with people who say, oh, I don't believe in annuities, I don't believe in life insurance. Okay, that's fine, but yo-yo, you're on your own.
Yep, that's right.
Whereas you can have some guarantees over here. Yeah. So what are some of the specific resources that you've used to gain education in money matters?
Probably all over the map with that, but but certainly, you know, we have our certifications, you know, that we obtain over the years, and I think that's something that we do as a lifetime. You know, I think I've been matriculating for something through the American College for as long as I can remember.
And so for the audience, there's things like the Chartered Life Underwriter course, and I mean, these are tough courses. These aren't you just sign up and do a 1-hour online thing, and it takes weeks and months to get these things. Yeah. The Chartered Advisor for Senior Living, the Retirement Income Certified Professional, there's a whole bunch, Certified Financial Planner, there's all these different designations that advisors can get to show that they, number one, have taken the training, that they know what they're talking about, but all of those also have ethics that they got to follow, that they can't be out, you know, doing bad things for people.
And interestingly enough, when I was taking my Chartered Leadership Fellow, which I'm not even sure if they really even, I think they've changed that course some since I took it 8-9 years ago when I was at New York Life, but my favorite course out of that whole thing was the capstone when the chick came and explained to me for 8 hours the ethics. I mean, I was entranced, and she went through kind of the backstory on Bernie Madoff and how that slipped through the cracks. And that makes you appreciate even more the people who have invested in their career, invested in their education, and have spent the time to actually fly to Philadelphia, sit for 3 days, you know, listening to these stories, because those are where we can go and apply it. And we can look at a situation and say, that doesn't look good. I think we need to redo something. Or you can say, I know this is not how it's supposed to be done, you know, and we can help safeguard. When we have someone come into our purview and say, I think I want to review this with you. Somebody else did this, but I'm not sure if it's right.
You know, I agree. I've attended numerous ethics classes, and I've never had a compliance issue, and it's a reason. I have one simple rule for compliance. If I wouldn't do it for myself, my mother, my father, my sisters, I won't do it for a client. I will not do it, and that has kept me out of trouble, and I can smell when something smells fishy, and then I'll ask more questions, and I don't get involved in any of that. Now, I often say to people, you know, people think knowledge is power. That's not exactly true. Applied knowledge is power. So if the audience wants to get a hold of you, they say, you know, I like Shelly's style, I'd like to call her, see what's up. How can they get a hold of you?
Well, my office telephone number is, I'm going to give the local one because I haven't memorized the 800 one yet, but it's 806-576-2340, and my email address is Shelly@GrimmInsuranceGroup.com.
Grimm.
Yes, like the fairy tales.
InsuranceGroup.com.
Yep.
Shelly@GrimmInsuranceGroup.com.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you. You've been a great guest.
Thank you.
I want to thank all of you for watching another series of Tom Hegna's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?